The dawn chill had barely lifted when the rumble began beneath Willow Creek's quiet Main Street. A soft, rhythmic trembling that felt more like the Earth's slow heartbeat than any human machinery. At the town's wastewater treatment plant, Chief Operator Rosa Martinez glanced up from her control panel as the monitors flickered. "Did you feel that?" she asked her assistant Josh Lynn, who was hunched over flow rate charts. Josh stiffened. "Some kind of vibration, but the pumps are offline for maintenance." Meanwhile, 2 blocks away beneath the red brick sidewalks, a gopher named Pip paused mid-tunnel. In his burrow network, an intricate web of twisting galleries, he sensed the walls behind him giving way. A section of tunnel roof cracked, and the soil overhead began to slump. Instinct drove him forward. Escaping upward, he burst through a thin soil cap and tumbled onto the gravel shoulder beside Main Street. Pip's frantic scratching and squealing drew the attention of early morning jogger Lydia Chen, who skidded to a halt beside the little rodent. She scooped up the shaken gopher as a sudden whoosh and deep hollow groan resonated from beneath her feet. Concrete sidewalk slabs fractured along a 3-foot stretch, curling upward like broken pages of a book. Before she could step back, a geyser of sewage, raw and unstoppable, erupted straight through the broken pavement, spraying asphalt and framing pipes in a rancid fountain. Lydia screamed, clutching Pip to her chest, and sprinted down the street toward the municipality's public works office, the gopher squirming in her coat pocket, but refusing to be silenced. Mayor Eamon Blake, sipping first cup coffee at City Hall's front desk, turned at the shout. Lydia burst through the door, breathless. "Mayor, there's a sinkhole in front of the bakery," and she handed him Pip at the same moment the building trembled. "A gopher did it. He came up through the sidewalk right before the blast." Outside, a crowd gathered as sewage water gurgled in the crater, sending a foul haze across the block. The roar of emergency sirens approached as Rosa and Josh, summoned by the shaking at the plant's control room, arrived alongside city engineers. Rosa's face went pale. That tremor coincided with an unexplained spike in flow pressure 2 hours ago, she explained. The primary interceptor pipe must have collapsed underground. "We've lost 3 junctions in the network." Josh pointed toward Lydia, who was cautiously setting Pip into a cardboard box. "That gopher tunneled right above the main line," he said. "His collapse may have exposed weakened soil that revealed the failing pipe below." Mayor Blake knelt to stroke Pip's soft fur. "You saved us," he murmured. He turned to Rosa. "We need to see the overturned soil, trace that burrow, and inspect the entire segment. If that gopher hadn't warned us, the whole line could have given way under heavy traffic and taken the main sewer with it. Hospital, school, and half the town would be flooded." Within minutes, crews fanned out, lifting the cracked sidewalk and excavating around Pip's tunnel entrance. Sure enough, the concrete collar of the 36-inch interceptor pipe lay fractured, its cast iron joint sheared by years of corrosion. Sewage water poured from the ragged seam into the gopher's vacated cavity, where gravity funneled it harmlessly into a lined excavation pit, rather than into the streets and basements of Willow Creek. As backhoes rolled in and repair clamps were fitted, the gopher watched from his box, whiskers twitching. Townsfolk clustered along the barricades, relief and amazement mingling in their hushed voices. Rosa oversaw the bypass pumping, her headset crackling with updates. "We'll have the pipe relined and back in service by tonight," she said. Thanks to our unexpected sentinel, we avoided a catastrophic blowout." Mayor Blake cleared his throat before the impromptu gathering. "Fellow citizens," he began, raising a gloved hand, "let us honor Pip the Gopher, who tumbled to the surface, warned us of danger, and saved Willow Creek. May we never underestimate the smallest guardian beneath our feet." A cheer rose from the crowd as Pip peered from his box, a hero whose humble tunnels had unmasked a hidden threat, and whose trembling paws had safeguarded an entire town's future. Before sunrise, Rosa Martinez and her crew fanned out along Main Street, guided by the fresh gopher tunnel and the jagged crack in the pavement. Armed with flashlights and moisture meters, they traced Pip's underground path beneath the sidewalk, carefully peeling back soil until they reached the sewer interceptor's fractured seam. The runaway sewage that had once spewed through the asphalt now pooled harmlessly in the collapsed burrow, neatly contained by the gopher's own excavation. As Rosa shone her light on the twisted cast iron joint, Josh Lynn knelt beside the cavity, phone in hand. "Look at this corrosion," he murmured, zooming in on the spalling metal and pitted surfaces. This pipe was on its last legs. Years of acidic effluent and soil movement must have worn it thin. He tapped his screen. The burst had occurred exactly where Pip's tunnel roof had caved in, unearthing the hidden weakness. Lydia Chen arrived with a hand-drawn sketch of the burrow network, her jogger's reflexes still wired by the morning's chaos. She pointed to a secondary tunnel that sloped toward the bakery's foundation. "If we hadn't intercepted here," she said, voice tight, "that line would have collapsed under the building, sending raw sewage into cellars, and possibly undermining the bakery itself." City engineers, led by Deputy Public Works Director Marcus Graham, gathered around the excavation. Marcus inspected the gopher's handiwork and nodded. "Nature's made us a diversion channel," he said, rapping a shovel against the soil. "We'll shore up these walls, install a temporary bypass pipe, then schedule a full relining. But tonight we've got clean streets and dry basements. Pip's tunnel saved the day." Behind them, pipe layers assembled a bright yellow bypass hose, snaking it through the gopher's primary gallery and clamping it past the damaged joint. As the treatment plant's pumps roared back to life, wastewater flowed through the emergency conduit and back into the main system, unseen and untarnished by the morning's drama. Pip, resettled in a ventilated wooden carrier, watched the human bustle with solemn whiskers. A ranger gently lifted him free at the water trough behind City Hall, releasing him into the manicured lawn where soft grass cushioned his paws. He paused at the edge of a hidden entry hole, sniffed the air, and scurried back below Main Street to resume his quiet work, forever the town's tiniest sentinel beneath its bustling streets. Within days of Pip's life-saving tumble, Willow Creek's engineers, public works crews, and even schoolchildren had embraced the gopher's warning as the keystone of a new safety program. At dawn on a crisp Saturday, Rosa Martinez led a team of excavators, surveyors, and community volunteers in a demonstration beneath Main Street. They reopened the bricked-over burrow entrance, where Pip had first broken through, installed clear-view inspection ports along his principal tunnel, and laid a series of sensor arrays in the surrounding soil to detect any future collapses. As volunteers peered through plexiglass panels into the winding galleries, children watched live motion camera feeds and seismic readouts projected on a mobile command trailer. Josh Lynn explained how each vibration from a skittering gopher paw or shifting soil would trigger an instant alert to the town's operations center, while Lydia Chen led neighborhood patrols checking sensor nodes and recalibrating moisture monitors. Meanwhile, Deputy Director Marcus Graham unveiled the Burrow Shield Protocol, which mandated monthly gopher-guided inspections of every sewer line segment beneath the historic district. Maintenance crews practiced emergency response drills. Upon sensor alarm, they would excavate a controlled access shaft, isolate the damaged pipe, deploy a temporary bypass liner, and repair the joint, all using the gopher's original tunnel as a protective trench. By midday, the demonstration had convinced skeptical aldermen to allocate budget for permanent gopher gateways at every block corner, complete with soil-stabilizing grates and emergency slip-reducing mats for pedestrian safety. As the last trench was backfilled, Rosa released Pip into an enlarged conservation plot behind City Hall, where his extended colony would continue to monitor the city's subterranean seams. The townspeople gathered to cheer, recognizing that this humble burrower, once a mere backyard nuisance, had become Willow Creek's greatest engineer, mapping hidden perils and forging a living alliance between wildlife and infrastructure. In the weeks that followed, every tremor, every tunnel, and every gopher dash would be both a signal and a safeguard, ensuring that the town's lifeblood flowed freely beneath its streets, secure, unbroken, and forever guided by the tiny guardian at their feet. As winter thawed into spring, Willow Creek's Burrow Shield Protocol rippled through every corner of town, transforming a single gopher's tumble into a community-wide safety web. Under crisp morning skies, Rosa Martinez oversaw the installation of 6 new Gopher gateways along Main Street, each marked by a discrete metal grate set flush with the sidewalk and wired to the sensor network buried in Pip's original tunnel. Volunteers from the high school robotics club threaded seismic cables and moisture probes through the burrow's branches, while city engineers extended fiber optic lines into Pip's galleries, creating a live video feed of the winding soil passages. Every tremor, whether the whisper of a passing jogger or the rush of water in the sewer line, registered on the central console at Public Works, where Josh Lin and Lydia Chen monitored the data alongside the mayor and aldermen. When the first spring rains arrived and threatened to wash away soil around an aging brick sewer vault, Pip's descendants, now a thriving colony of 40 gophers, reacted with a flurry of frantic digging that triggered an alert at 2:17 a.m. The sensors flashed, dispatching a two-man crew who excavated a controlled shaft, uncovered a weakening mortar joint, and fitted a corrosion-resistant sleeve before any collapse could reach the pavement above. Word of that near miss spread through the local news and earned Willow Creek a state grant for living infrastructure, funding further expansion of the borough-guided system into the adjacent historic district. Neighborhood associations organized soil stewardship workshops, teaching residents how to maintain the gateways and respect the gopher's habitat, while the Parks Department built a demonstration garden above the primary tunnel entrance, complete with interpretive signs illustrating Pip's path and live displays of real-time tunnel video. As summer settled over the town, tourists paused to peer through plexiglass portholes into the subterranean world, where gophers skittered beneath the streets, their tiny paws echoing like living metronomes that kept Willow Creek's vital veins intact. At City Hall, the mayor signed a resolution declaring the Gopher Colony an official urban sentinel and declared Borough Awareness Week an annual celebration. In cafes and barbershops, residents marveled that their quiet burrowers, once dismissed as simple pests, had become the town's greatest engineers, mapping threats no blueprint could foresee. And as dusk fell each day, the sensor lights pulsing softly beneath the sidewalk reminded everyone that beneath their feet lay a living shield, a labyrinth of tunnels where every tremble, every collapse, and every scurry carried the promise of safety for the town above. By the time autumn's golden light bathed Willow Creek, the Borough Shield Protocol had evolved into a sophisticated symphony of wildlife and technology. Under Rosa Martinez's guidance, the Public Works Department partnered with the university's engineering lab to develop the Gopher Grid, a geospatial model that overlaid real-time tunnel sensor data with sewer system schematics, soil moisture maps, and pedestrian traffic patterns. City field crews, armed with tablet terminals, could now track every Pip descendant colony's movements, predict where excessive digging might expose aging pipe joints, and schedule preventive maintenance down to the hour. Neighborhood borough brigades formed in each district. Volunteers hosted weekend tunnel talks in community centers, where children peered into plexiglass tubes and learned to distinguish a harmless skitter from an urgent soil collapse. The Parks Department expanded Pip's conservation plot into a 3-acre sentinel meadow, complete with educational signage and guided tours, ensuring the gophers' habitat thrived even as their tunnels safeguarded the town. When a sudden freeze-thaw cycle cracked a cast-iron manhole cover beneath Elm Avenue, the gopher sensors detected micro-vibrations that human crews never would have felt. Within 15 minutes, a rapid response team had shored up the vault and prevented a potentially catastrophic sewer overflow during the next rainstorm. Data analysts in City Hall's Infrastructure Operations Center aggregated a year's worth of borough alerts into predictive algorithms now shared with neighboring municipalities, turning Pip's legacy into a regional standard. And each year, on the anniversary of Pip's fateful tumble, the town held a Borough Day festival, honoring their smallest guardians with music, story time, and the ceremonial release of sunflower seeds at every gateway grate, reminding all that beneath the bustle of daily life, it is often the tiniest voices underground that hold the greatest power to protect us above. Word of Willow Creek's Borough Shield Protocol spread quickly beyond the town's borders, capturing the imagination of municipal engineers and policymakers across the state. In the capital, a legislative committee convened to study this novel alliance of wildlife and infrastructure. Chief Operator Rosa Martinez and wildlife biologist Dr. Imara Ndlovu testified before the assembly, demonstrating live sensor feeds from PIP's tunnels and presenting data showing a 75% reduction in sewer line failures over 2 years. Their impassioned plea, backed by videos of volunteers peering through glass portals into the bustling borough network, convinced lawmakers to draft the Urban Sentinel Act, mandating that every municipality install at least 2 borough gateway systems beneath critical sewer and water mains. Within months, neighboring towns dispatched public works crews and wildlife officers to Willow Creek for hands-on training. Rosa led workshops on trenchless sensor installation in active boroughs, while Imara taught humane collaring and monitoring of gopher colonies. Engineering students from the State University built portable borough response kits containing lightweight cameras, acoustic probes, and soil-stabilizing grouts packaged for rapid deployment. Meanwhile, the state's Department of Environmental Protection recognized the Gopher gateways as a best practice in green infrastructure, allocating grants to fund expansion into high-density urban districts where aging utilities ran beneath cracked sidewalks and busy streets. By the following spring, dozens of towns had replicated Willow Creek's system. In each, local sentinel teams of city workers and citizen volunteers tended the gateway grates, calibrated the seismic sensors, and hosted school visits to showcase the living tunnels beneath their feet. Emergency response protocols integrated borough alerts into 911 dispatch scripts. When sensors detected a collapse signature, operators preemptively rerouted traffic, dispatched repair crews, and issued boil water advisories if necessary. At the state capitol's annual infrastructure summit, Rosa and Imara unveiled the Borough Network Dashboard, an interactive map displaying real-time borough alert densities, soil moisture anomalies, and prioritized maintenance tasks across all participating municipalities. Governors and mayors applauded as the display zoomed from Willow Creek's original tunnels outward, a web of living shields spanning city blocks and county lines. As dusk fell on the summit's final day, Imara released PIP's great-grand colony, now numbering in the hundreds, into a protected prairie preserve adjacent to a major utility corridor. Beneath their paws lay a labyrinth of assurance, and in their tremors, the echoes of a single gopher's tumble that had forever reshaped the way a state watched its streets, proving that sometimes the smallest engineer can secure the grandest systems. Years later, Willow Creek had become a beacon of resilient infrastructure, its streets and sewers safeguarded by the very creatures once deemed mere pests. Rosa Martinez stood atop the rebuilt manhole covers along Elm Avenue, surveying the network of gleaming borough gateways, each flush grate a discreet sentinel marking the tunnels of PIP's descendants. Below her, the gopher colony thrived in soil, packed with fiber optic sensors, moisture probes, and echo sound transducers, all feeding real-time data to the town's Infrastructure Operations Center. On the massive hollow map, clusters of borough alerts glowed like constellations, guiding maintenance crews with unfailing precision. Residents, now accustomed to the gentle hum of subterranean monitoring, strolled the sidewalks without fear, children pointing out the tiny access grates and pledging to keep an eye on the gophers. Across the state, 200 municipalities had adopted the Borough Shield Protocol, their downtown thoroughfares and historic districts lined with the same living safety net first woven beneath Willow Creek's Main Street. At the annual Sentinel Summit, held back in town, city engineers, wildlife biologists, legislators, and citizen volunteers gathered beneath a monument of PIP's likeness, bronze, whiskered, and alert, to celebrate the million-mile Gopher Grid, now protecting critical water and sewer mains nationwide. As dusk settled, Rosa released a handful of sunflower seeds at the base of the monument. Moments later, small figures emerged from the grass, burrowers whose scurrying paws echoed a silent promise that as long as their tunnels ran beneath our feet, our cities would remain whole, and our future secured by the gentle guardians of the earth.